Thank you for joining me today. Early and decisive actions, along with the hard work of Manitobans, have made a difference in our fight against COVID-19. And I want to thank Team Manitoba for all that they've done and for all you've shown through your strength and your empathy, through your courage, through your resilience. You've stuck to the fundamentals, and I thank you for that, and for being calm and kind and giving to others, and for keeping safe through this unprecedented time. But there is no room for complacency. We do not want a COVID comeback, and our number one priority during this unprecedented global pandemic has been keeping you and your loved ones safe and ensuring a healthy Manitoba, not just today, but well into the future as well. Notre priorité numéro une au cours de cette pandémie mondiale sans précédent a été de vous protéger, vous et vos proches aussi, et d'assurer la santé du Manitoba aujourd'hui et pour l'avenir aussi. 3 weeks ago, our government unveiled Restoring Safe Services Together, Manitoba's pandemic economic recovery roadmap. It is a Manitoba plan. It was made by and for Manitobans so that we could move forward with confidence to slowly and carefully get back to business in Manitoba and reopen our communities and get back to the kind of quality of life that we've enjoyed here that we will never again take for granted. Our plan has been evidence-based from the start. It lays out the groundwork to ease public health measures that had escalated since mid-January, and we have been able to create widespread public awareness. Manitobans continue to respond by, in all but a few cases, practicing the fundamentals and adopting physical distancing behaviors that are new, but that are necessary to protect ourselves and each other. The measures in place have successfully flattened the curve, so we're now seeing fewer instances of COVID-19, reduced rates of positive tests from the peaks that we had experienced in early April. A critical element of our flattening efforts and what has contributed to Manitoba's continued success has been our increased levels of testing, tracking. But I would point out that as we increase the numbers of tests and as we loosen these restrictions, it would be, I think, highly predictable that we'll see an increased number of instances of COVID, and I think we need to be prepared for that to happen. What we can't allow to happen is that we stop practicing the successful techniques and fundamentals that have been so effective thus far in keeping us all safer. As a result of our collective successful efforts in Phase 1, we were able to ease some restrictions, including elective surgeries and non-urgent health services, such as dentists, orthodontics, physiotherapists. We also were able to reduce some restrictions on outdoor recreation, such as playgrounds, golf courses, campgrounds, and on a number of retail businesses like clothing and sporting goods stores, restaurant patios, hair salons, all while ensuring that physical distancing measures continue to be in place. Key criteria have been met since the implementation of Phase 1 that allow us to now look at further easing public health measures. As Dr. Roussin announced yesterday, effective tomorrow, that's Friday, May 22nd, public gatherings will be increased to 25 people indoors and 50 people outdoors. Also, residents in personal care homes and long-term care facilities may have visitors outdoors. And I'm sure that's welcome news for many Manitobans. I've heard from some already in the last few hours who are very, very appreciative of that, and I know our seniors will also be very appreciative of those somewhat more loosened restrictions. Many Manitoba families have sacrificed a great deal in these last weeks, and they have sacrificed most certainly time with their loved ones, and that has been difficult for many. Today, I'm really pleased to share with Manitobans our draft plan for Phase 2 of our Restoring Safe Services Together. I want to ask Manitobans for their input, as we have throughout this process. You can go to engagemb.ca to view this draft plan. I will also encourage all the business groups that have been part of this and trade associations and so on to know that tomorrow on our biweekly call, they will have the opportunity, and this is literally dozens, close to 50 different groups who represent well over 100,000 workers in Manitoba, will have the opportunity to provide their input and their perspectives as well. We've taken this same approach when we did the Declaration of Essential Services, same approach prior to introducing Phase 1, and we'll continue to do it, and that is to ask Manitobans for their views on these issues. Clearly, all of us hope we can be in a position to move forward. Clearly, all of us hope that we can be in a position to ease some of the restrictions that have been in place for a long time. But I would emphasize again today that our ability to do that will be almost entirely up to Manitobans, and it'll be up to our medical experts to evaluate what they see over the coming few days before we are going to be able to take those steps. As part of Phase 2, I want to talk a little bit about schools. Our young Manitobans are, probably many would agree, our most precious assets, and we have to do everything we can to help support our students and protect them. Their educational needs are key to us, and preparing for a brighter future ahead is, of course, the focus. And we recognize that this has been a tough time for many of our students and their families. I want to say a special word to all the grads, including my nephew, and say, I know this is a tough time for all of you guys. We love you and we want you safe. That's the most important thing here, and I know that you're missing an opportunity to share in this experience, to give some closure to your K-12 studies and to be with friends in a way that you'd like to be. I know you're missing a great deal. Our hearts go out to you, but the first thing that you know that we have to bear in mind is how much we love you and care for you, and we want to keep you safe. It's been a tough time for students, but a tough time for everybody. The families involved as well, teachers too, and administrators. Everybody's juggling challenges, the challenges of remote learning, the challenges of missing classmates and coworkers and colleagues, the challenges that are very real for all of us in this system. And we want to make sure, as part of Phase 2, that we look at additional ways to assist our young people and those who help them in the education system in meeting their educational needs. So while in-classroom learning continues to be suspended for the remainder of the school year, we are currently examining the safe, limited reopening of educational facilities this spring to allow for additional tutorial days, such as one-on-one learning, assessments, and specific programming. To ensure students are equipped to transition to the new school year, additional teaching days are proposed for the upcoming school year. And I would emphasize to my friends at the Manitoba Teachers Society, obviously we're going to be in discussion with you about how we facilitate these changes. We want to do this in a cooperative way, as I know all educators want to, but we're, all of us, having as our first concern the best interests of our students. One of these changes, and you'll see it in the Phase 2 draft plan when you have a look again at engagemb.ca. Have a look at the draft plan and give us your thoughts on it. But one of the suggestions that we have is starting school this coming year on a one-time basis only on August 31st and repurposing some of those non-instructional days, or what some call PE days, throughout the school year so that we're able to accommodate some of the transitional challenges that our students are going to be facing as they resume their studies in the fall. The Department of Education is going to continue planning and consulting with school divisions and with other educational stakeholders. The draft plan for restoring services in Phase 2 builds on the measures we announced in late April, which set out an evidence-based plan to ease public health measures that have escalated since mid-January. Other measures are also being examined for Phase 2, and again, I invite you to have a look and give us your input. Expanding religious or other organizations' outdoor services, expanding childcare center capacity and day camps. You'll see in the proposal on the childcare centers in particular to go from 16 and move up to 24 young people. Reopening community centers, resuming organized activities and team sports, reopening indoor services at restaurants, reopening swimming pools, spas, fitness clubs, and gyms, expanding personal services. I'd emphasize on each of these categories and others outlined in the draft plan that there are strict protocols that will be expected to be followed for the restrictions to be reduced. And those protocols are much more detailed than you'll see in the draft plan, but they are there for every industry. They've been developed in consultation with each of the various industries. Whichever ones are affected by these know the protocols that need to be utilized. Just as for example, our golf courses, when we announced the reopening of golf courses. Many of those golf courses, all of those golf courses, are following strict protocols on development. Now, the draft plan will change some of those things and ease some of the restrictions, but there are still going to be protocols that have to be followed to make sure that we don't let COVID back in. No COVID come back in this province. And we can take pride in the progress we've made and the additional steps that we're considering today. But I will say again, we must remain vigilant. We'll continue here to review the data. We will rely on the advice of our healthcare experts to determine the next steps of our plans in the coming days. We'll continue to be successful here in Manitoba as long as Manitobans keep working together as a team. And I thank you for doing that, and I encourage all of you to continue to do that. Nous continuons à réussir si nous continuons à travailler ensemble en équipe. Remember, as we make this recovery happen, you are the reason that it is able to happen. You're the reason that we can hopefully move towards continued recovery here. That's what all of us want. But you know that if we have restrictions, and we continue to have some most certainly after phase 2, there are some restrictions that will most certainly remain, that it is your security and your protection that's the motivation behind those things. I know as spring's here and the weather becomes better that all of us are of a mind to getting outside, and we're increasing the likelihood of increased frequency of contact with one another. But the practices that we have used to get us where we are the practices we have to continue to use. And this is the new reality, and these are the new fundamentals. And we have to follow these fundamentals. Remember, not every Canadian is given the opportunity to save a life. But you do have that opportunity, and you have saved lives. And we'll save even more. Together, we're going to beat this thing.